Hello everybody, welcome to another edition of the Renko Edge, where I take a look at the week ahead in the futures markets, focusing on the Renko charts, my favorite, my speciality, to give you some ideas in all of those markets. And if you're new to this session or the channel, then basically I will quickly run through a few ideas, a few charts, as many as I can within the times we got, and come up with some ideas for you, targets, stop loss areas, a whole host of analysis done very fast. And like I said, this is every Monday at 12:30 UK time, so just before the US markets open for the week. So with that, I think we should crack on and get straight into the charts. I'm going to flip you over now to another page. There we go. And like I said, I work my way down through my list. You can see there on the right hand side very quickly, focusing in on the, call it the more medium-ish term to start with, which I've set at a 45-minute ATR for the Renko chart, and I try to use the same indicators and tools across all markets to provide consistency there. We've got a couple of super trends and the stochastic on this chart. Once we've gone through this list, I'll hone in on some finer points and detail around these trades. So starting with copper at the moment, nothing special here. Been pulling back down, looking maybe still weak, backing down to that 4.4 zone, but nothing there for me yet. Then we come on to two very hot markets at the moment, gold and silver. So these are on the radar, as you can see, extremely strong, pushing up through the 3660 area. We'll have a look at gold in a bit more detail again, but even in the short term, we can see over here we've got the 20-minute ATR and the 9-minute ATR to see waves of the price action playing out. And at the moment, everything's looking a bit green for gold, and it's exactly the same if I flip to silver. Maybe a bit more quiet in the short term. We got that block of data there, but it's looking like support around 41.25 area. Like I said, if we can break up through there, it could be quite a tasty further long trade. Quite correlated to gold, obviously, but I like to view it as its stroppy little sister. It can go off on tangents on its own, but well, it also has its own uses as well, fundamentally. But is quite correlated to gold. And then moving quickly into platinum, nothing really there at the moment. You might look at that chart and think upside looking possible, but actually at this time of the year, seasonality wise, we're thinking more bearish. So I'm a bit more neutral there on platinum at the moment. Palladium, similar sort of picture. In the FX world, moving in there, we've got Australian dollar actually looking strong. So you can see shooting on up there in all time frames, and also the pound as well. It's sort of recovered from that recent dip, putting a double bottom there around 133.6, and then hitting these recent highs. So what to look out for now is that enough? And is it going to pull back and stay quite rangy, mean revert back to mean probably somewhere in there, or is it going to pop on up through? In short term, it's been quite strong this morning. And I want to pull your attention to another one, and there, the Swiss franc, also looking quite tasty to the upside as well in all time frames there. Probably the Australian dollar looking the strongest of the bunch there. The other currencies, not so impressed with at the moment. Canadian dollar, Japanese yen looking quite, range bound there. What else we got? Brazilian real, bit toppy, nice treble top there. We'd look for a break above 0.184 and above if we were more bullish. More likely to maybe come down here in terms of probabilities back to that sort of area around the 0.18 zone, and then you'd be testing whether it would come down further to sorry, 0.176 sort of area. And the Mexican peso, similar type of range bound. So if I'm talking currencies, I'll be thinking Australian dollar, pound, Swiss franc. And actually, let's just switch over to this chart here. Add on the currency strength at the bottom. Slightly different time, 15 minutes and 45. And this gives me a good clue as to the currency strength, like I said, down the bottom, in combination with the Renko setup, as the sort of ultimate guide, because we're looking for hot versus cold currency pairs. We know that the US dollar is looking to weaken down, so we get a nice strong counter currency against it, like in this instance the Australian dollar. That's the pair we want to look for at the moment. Over there on the right hand side we've got the black line. I'll just drill into that so you can see what we've got on there. Let's actually set it up correctly for the Australian dollar. Right, so real quick, so I think this is my favorite of the three where you've looked at there in terms of the pound, the Swiss franc, and the Australian dollar. So let's do that. So as you can see at the moment, if you can see that, it's a bit faint there at the moment, but we've got the yellow line, which is the Australian dollar, black line, the US dollar. That above there is signaling strength to me there in the Australian dollar, and it's the same in the longer term as well. So looking quite good there, I think, the Australian dollar for further upside. Heading back into those other markets, let's get to crypto. Bitcoin looking not particularly exciting. We got this high in here recently around 113,500 there, and short term maybe weak bullish at best there, but nothing too exciting. We got this block of price data between 114 and 109,000 sort of area, so we want it to be really strong indeed if we're further bullish to the upside. And Ethereum has been doing very well over the last few months, but recently it's looking a bit more weak bearish and possibly back down to the 4,100 sort of area. You may test that zone before pinging on back, or maybe even breaking on down. But I fancy maybe a brief pullback and then a reversal back up onto the upside. Into some energy markets, crude oil, sort of all over the place at the moment. Found support around the 61 3/4 before that recent ping back up. Short term, looking more weak bullish. We've got this zone. Let's actually put on some Fibonacci's there to this one. Let's do it in a different chart because it's a different color. Here we go. Let's get some potential numbers there for oil from that recent high to low. Where are we? Anything significant there? Well, I'd suggest maybe support 62.5 zone for a pullback there. 63.25 into that noise there. A key Fibonacci area, and then we got the next key one that's just over 64 in and around that zone. Then use that as the ladder on the way up to 65.78. But if you're more bearish to oil, you want to see that trend continue, reverse back down, then like I said, 62.5 breaks that back to those lows around the 61.5 area. What else we got in energies? We got the heating oil, nothing much going on there, maybe slight, but it's quite correlated to crude oil. CL, WTI, short term, reasonably bullish in there. Nat gas, now this is another interesting one. This time of year, actually, let me bring up something else I've got here, I use this seasonality matrix that I've got. You can see September running down here. We got where the numbers are in are the really strong, really well bullish and bearish ones. Bring attention there. We got lumber, strong bearish, lean hogs very bullish, soybeans bearish, strong bearish, and then we've got oats and rough rice, both bullish. Gold, that's another additive to that, longer play anyway, that seems to be doing well, still very bullish at this time. Silver, bullish but not quite as much as gold. And then you can see platinum there, while I neutralize that trade idea because it also shows strong bearish. But nat gas we were just looking at this through September, particularly strong, bit quieter through October, and then picking up again November, December. So this month is a good month for nat gas. So let's just ping back to that chart there. Let's go over to there and look at some numbers for nat gas. So in terms of the trade at the moment, looking quite good above the moving average. Stochastic just pulling back, which is showing in that price action there. That quadruple top around, what is that, just over 3.1 looks significant, and we got that support area just over 3.02. So look at that nice rangy market broke out. So we'd look for the pullback back to that sort of top area before hoping that it pinged off if seasonality and the other variables line up. The longer term trend still looking good. Let's pick some targets based on the recent shorter term Fibonacci move. Let's just flat out there. So let's drag that down. So in the shorter term pullback, we would think 3.1. Things like in that zone there. And we would be looking for that to ping back up through those highs, 3.1.5, and then further up to 3.185, 3.2, 3.22 sort of zone. That's sort of area. Some more bullishness there in nat gas, but nat gas seasonality tick, charts looking pretty decent as well. RBOB gasoline, not very interesting there. Then we come into some indices. S&P 500, I would say if we just pull that back a bit, 10 block size, quite sizable. Obviously their trend has been on the upward slope, but it has become a bit more sideways in the last 6 or 7 weeks. Nasdaq, maybe a worse story actually. A lot of sidewaysness as well. Support 23,000 came down. Looking to break above, and push up towards that 24,000 highs and greater than. Short term, medium term, looking bullish there. Nikkei 225, that's been quite decent. Pushing towards those highs at about 44,000. Where could that go next? Let's have a quick look over here. Let's pick out a more stronger Fibonacci setup. Let's take that treble top there. Well, like it says, the Fibonacci showing just over 44,000, and 44.25, then 44.5 as your next range on up, but probably looking quite strong in the indices sector. The Japanese economy there picking up. We had the I think the Prime Minister resigned recently. So yeah, there's a Japanese Nikkei, not too bad there. Back to the list. Well, we got some softs now. Cotton still looking weak. Coffee has been a great performer, but moving sideways now across all time zones. So maybe one to avoid until it can either get above the 380, 90 zone or back down. It's a long way back down to that 304, 305 zone. Orange juice was weak as well. Had the big ping up, but we are coming up towards hurricane season, so always watch out there. You can get some nice, really big vol spikes there, and the price shooting on up. But at the moment, price looking weak to further downside. Cocoa, again, weak in all time zones, looking to break down through current lows. Round, what do we got? 7,280 there. 290. Where could we go down to? Let's have a look on cocoa. We'll just pick on it for more downside. Let's go big Fibonacci. We got that top there, didn't we? Oh, wrong one. Well, the big move down, if it breaks down any further, is 6875. So I'll call it 6900 if we rounded that up. But a lot of support around the Fibonacci lines to the upside. So next upside there's 7600. But in the shorter term, where could we be targeting if we took that Fibonacci zone there? It's starting to get a bit messy, but let's just zoom in a little bit so we can see. We could be ripping our way down to 7170, 7100 zone, the next sort of key sort of Fibonacci stop zones for that downside there for orange, cocoa. Sugar, sort of similar story in the soft zone at the moment. Down, coming towards support area. So make or break, shorter term. It's obviously short downside, but I could call that the double top. We could be projecting down to the where could we go to that? So if you're doing the rules of technical analysis, take that, you probably put it down to about the 14 zone for sugar there. Another bullish sector is the old cattle, live and feeder. As you can see, both still looking pretty decent. What are they like for seasonality? Actually, let's just flick back the chart there. This time of year, lean hogs, which isn't obviously one of them, is very bullish. But live cattle still seasonally pretty bullish. Feeder cattle not so much so. So if you're going to pick on one, I might stick with this on the live cattle. Just pulling back at the moment, so looking for a dip buying opportunity. Short term, all negative at the moment. And what else we got? Well, hogs obviously are bullish after their annual, I call it the barbecue season sell-off. Down, bouncing back up. Could be targeting 103. Other markets, we won't spend too much on. These are more illiquid futures contracts, dry whey futures, milk. I think exciting. Lumber, that's more an interesting one to me. We saw that on the heat map there. Lumber, where are you? September, very bearish. So that plus what we can see there in the charts at the moment could be a continuation back down for some more negative price action. Let's pull that one up on the charts. So where could we see that going to? Remove that. First of all, let's look short term. I said we've seen that sort of small correction, looking to sell back down again. Stochastic week, trend week under its longer term moving average. Let's pull on the data here with the Fibonacci's from that there to there. So obviously you've got to break that low around 520, but 475 possibly down there. Let's go in a bit shorter term, some more accurate numbers. Give you an idea, just under 600. Sorry, 600, 500, 510, just down there, and then 500 is looking quite a tasty sort of number to me. Nice round number, sitting in between that zone maybe as an ultimate pullback before maybe coming back on upwards again. What else can we look at? Canola, however you pronounce it, looking neutral, I'd say. And then some grains, further with the grains. Corn looking quite toppy. Did that top out at 423 there? Nice double top pattern. That's again a long way down to that zone. 390, 392 potential downsides there. Bit weak in the short term as well, so watch out for corn. Maybe there's a sell off there. Soybeans, what have we got? Maybe a bit more range bound, but again looking weak down to 985 zone. Soybean oil, it's an interesting one. Has it done enough? Has it sort of bottomed in here to recover itself, or is it going to slip on back downwards? Interesting one there. Got a sort of a strongish pattern there. If you're looking at, you could be down towards 47 area if that broke on down that way. Let me just see whether I've got that. Okay, leave it at that. So no, I think 40, breaks there. We got 47. Let's just pull that data out. Is there anything over there? Interestingly, we got this point here, this zone between 47.5 and late 48s. So we could be seeing further sell back down to there. Then meal, similar sort of pattern, isn't it really, but just slightly different shape, just pulling back. Maybe 275 the target to the downside. Oats remaining weak. Then rice also weak, and finally wheat there, not too exciting. It's pulling in on the chart. What have we got? Again, we've got that sort of pattern, that nice range there. Let's wait and see if it breaks back down. Support around 501, 502 possibly for wheat. What's that like on the matrix for seasonality? Wheat. What have we got? This time of year is bullish, more bullish, and that could be its saving grace. So maybe actually it's going to just stay range bound in between this 515 to 535 area. So that's my quick look through the charts there. What ones did we really like? I said look down my list. Gold and silver looking particularly interesting still, maybe more gold than silver. FX wise, we had the pound, Australian dollar, Swiss franc, but Australian dollar again looking good to the upside. Nat gas, seasonality, and trends all looking good. The cattle markets still strong. Lumber pretty weak there. We saw maybe there if you're talking stock markets, Japanese Nikkei 225 looking pretty decent as well. So that's really the quick look at the week ahead. I hope you've enjoyed the session. Give us a thumbs up if you have. We're back this time next week, 12:30 UK, for another brief look at the futures markets with the Renko charts for the week ahead. So thanks for joining me, and hope to catch up with you soon. See ya.